Hey, what's up? It's Jake from Novus DevOps, and I am learning Kubernetes. So the next step for my Homelab and also my Kubernetes journey is to start looking at Kubernetes the hard way, which starts with some prerequisites of creating some virtual machines. I already made a couple videos showing the resources that I'm using in my Homelab, which is sitting on my desk over here. Say hello to my Homelab. But what we're going to do is we're going to build these 4 virtual machines using OpenTofu and Proxmox. As you can see here, I already have my jump box, my server, my node 0, and my node 1 running on my cluster. My resources aren't looking too shabby. They're just running on one of my nodes in my cluster. Everything is running off of a Cloud-Init template running Debian 12. So how did I make this work? Documentation. So rather than using Terraform, I am using OpenTofu, and if you look at the OpenTofu documentation for Telmate Proxmox, we can see here that first of all, we need to establish that we use the version, the latest version. One of the gotchas I ran into when I first started this project was I was using Terraform, and the default version that Terraform was pulling down was not the newest version, and I had all kinds of problems with my configuration. So first step, make sure you have your required providers established here with your version. Next, in my Proxmox provider, I established my API URL, token ID, and secret, and set them as variables. The variables are set with default values of empty string. All these variables are set in my bash rc file in my profile, which I sourced, so everything is local to my machine and none of my secrets are in like a credentials file or anywhere that could be pushed up to Git. This includes a Cloud-Init user and password that I set by default for the template. So here's a quick rundown of one virtual machine. I set the ID, the name, the target node, the agent, the cores, the memory, the boot. So SCSI 0 is going to be the boot order. And then which clone I'm going to be naming this from is the name of the template. And then my SCSI hardware that I'm going to be using, the VM state that I want it in, and set automatic reboot to true. As far as Cloud-Init configuration goes, this is all directly from the documentation. I'm using a YAML file to do a custom update when the machine is done, as well as setting DNS, the IP, and then, as I said before, the Cloud-Init user and password, and then I went ahead and put my SSH key in there as well. This is my public key. Next, I just create a local LVM 10 gig disk. The other ones are 20 gigs. And then some images require Cloud-Init disk for IDE controller. So I set that as well. And then a simple little network block. And that's it. I just have 4 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and tofu destroy. Okay, everything's destroyed. Now let's go ahead and tofu apply. While this is running, if you want to go install tofu, OpenTofu has a couple different ways to do the install and everything like that. I have Go installed on my machine, so I recommend just using Go to do all of your installation. It's really, really simple. So while this is running, I'm going to explain the Cloud-Init. So the Cloud-Init is really simple. From the OpenTofu documentation, you can see here the provider tells you how to make a VM, but on the other side of this, there's some guides, and there's a Cloud-Init getting started. And all you have to do is log into your node, wget the, in this case, Debian 12 Cloud-Init image. It could be any image, but I needed Debian 12 for this anyways, so that worked out really well. And then you just run a couple commands. You create a machine. You set the ID to 9000. That way the ID doesn't interfere with any of the IDs like in the 100s or 200s that you're going to create. And then you just run a couple more commands, create a template, and then here's the snippet that does the update and the agent and the systemctl start. And that's pretty much it. And then everything you saw in my Terraform configuration came straight out of here. I just copied this and pasted it and then updated it to my liking. So that's how I got my Cloud-Init template. I just followed the documentation. So you're going to need to install OpenTofu. You're going to need to make sure you have Go to do that. And you're going to need to set up your Cloud-Init template first. And then you can reference that template in your Terraform file and then just do a tofu format, a validate, a plan, and apply, and then you're good to go. So there you go. We've got our 4 VMs running. This meets all the requirements for our Kubernetes the hard way prerequisites. All right, and this is 6.1.115-1, and we are on 123-1, so we're just a little bit ahead of the documentation that it was created. So there you go. Now I've got my 4 VMs ready, and we can start moving forward with configuration. Not exactly sure how I'm going to do that yet. I'm going to try a couple different things and see what works, but there may be something involved that rhymes with the word schmansible. If you got any questions, let me know. But if not, my name is Jake from Nimbus DevOps, and I am learning Kubernetes.